Alright guys, I just decided to make a quick video just going through the proofs and stuff like that that you would need for the deductive reasoning review. It should be about 10-15 minutes. For number one, you would start with the given. You also want to mark the given in your picture, so it tells you that KM and M are parallel. Just follow the letters. It says that KJV, so KJV is this angle here. It's equal to 8x plus 7. I'll put that in. 8x plus 7. And it says that LVJ, follow those letters. It's a different color here. Here's LVJ, so that's this angle down here. It's 3x plus 6. So what you should know immediately is the relationship. So these angles are same side interiors, and same side interiors are supplementary, so says the proof. So we're going to say, so says the theorem. So we're going to say angles KJV and angle LVJ are supplementary, and that's going to be same side interior angle theorem. Again, you cannot just go straight to the 180 because that's not what the theorem says. The theorem says that they're supplementary. So then you have to do the next step, which is to say that they are equal to 180. That's showing that you understand what it means to be supplementary. And that's going to be definition supplementary angles. Step 4 will then be the substitution. Again, do not just, if you're not sure of the proof steps, don't just skip everything. Again, at least start with what you know. You'll get, partial credit. If you leave it completely blank, it's going to be, all the points off. So it's going to be 8x plus 7 plus the 3x plus 6 equals 180. That's our substitution property. Step 5. Go ahead and combine the like terms. We'll get 11x plus 13 equals 180. That's our combined like terms. Simplify step. Step 6. We'll subtract. We'll get 11x equals 167. Subtraction. Property of equality. 11x. I'm sorry, not 11x. Divide. Oops. Don't need to write that. Next step, we're going to divide by 11. And we'll get 7. We'll get x equals. I get 15.2. It's 15.18, but again, we'll round that to 15.2, the nearest 10. That's the division property of equality. Then we need to go back, because it doesn't just ask you to prove x equals 15.2. It asks you to prove what angle LJK is. So angle LJK is not either one of the two given angles. So before we even start to do anything for plugging in, let's see what LJK is on our picture. So if we go back to our picture, LJK, I'm sorry, I'm saying the wrong thing, YJK. So YJK is this angle up here. And that has a connection with this yellow angle here, the LVJ. They're corresponding to their congruent. So I'm going to go for 8, and I'm going to say the measure of angle LVJ is congruent to the measure of angle YJK, and that's the corresponding angles postulate. And therefore, for number 9, we can say measure of angle YJK equals 3 times, what's x, 15.2 plus 6. Well, I guess we could just say the x first, then we'll substitute again. So we'll say, we can call this substitution or transitive. Then I would substitute again. .2 plus 6, substitution. Property of equality. And then 11 the 51.6, and that's going to be simplified. All right, that's probably a little longer than anything I would give you, but you'll definitely have something where you have to use the angle pairs and then plugging back in to get an angle measure. I wouldn't consider outside of your abilities either. For the next one, numbers 4 through 8, they ask you to write a statement showing the property. You can pretty much do whatever you wanted to for this. For the division, property of equality would be something like 3x equals 15. Then x equals 5. You're dividing both sides. Reflexive property of congruence. That's when you have something like TV is congruent. It says congruent, so make sure you put the right symbol. It's congruent to TV. That's everything's equal to itself, congruent to itself. Subtraction property of equality. It's something like x plus 8 equals 10. Then x equals 2. Transitive property of congruent. So again, make sure you have a congruency sign. Would be something like if angle A is congruent to angle B and angle B is congruent to angle C, then angle A is congruent to angle C. Something like that. And the substitution property of equality, if 2x plus y equals 20 and x equals 3, then 2 times 3 plus y equals 20. So I just run out of space over there. All right, for the two examples below, describe the difference in operations. And obviously, again, for these through 4 through 8, whatever numbers I had here, you can write any examples, just identifying those properties or expressing those properties. For number 9, for the two examples below, describe the difference in the operations, which reason would you use for each. This is just, again, to clarify the difference between the combining like terms and the addition. This is a common thing that students will confuse. This one's going to be the 2x plus 11 equals 23. To get that, you're combining these. So that's CLT. Simplify either one of those. But for B over here, what you're doing is you're adding 5 to both sides of the equation. So when you're doing something to both sides of the equation, that's when it's one of the properties of equality. And this is the addition property of equality. All right. Next one, number 4. Excuse me. It tells you here that V is a midpoint. So by knowing it's a midpoint, you should immediately know that these are going to be congruent. So this is our statement reasons. Sorry, I'm putting my line for the given in the wrong spot. This is my given. And again, it says that V is a midpoint. So for 2, we're going to say AV is congruent to VB. That's definition of a midpoint, because that's what a midpoint does. It splits a segment into two congruent parts. Then we can go ahead and write in the information. This was 3x plus 7. This was 6y plus 1. And then this whole thing is 8x minus 10. All right, so if your thought process is to say this plus this equals that, that would be wrong. The reason for that is because this has a y and this has an x. So if we wrote this equation, 3x plus 7 equals 6y plus 1, that's not going to get, I'm sorry, plus. It's not going to get us anywhere because it's not useful. So what we need to do here is do the following. For step 3, segment addition tells us that AV plus VB equals AB. That's segment addition postulate. Now, since we know that these are congruent, we're going to say for step 4 that AV plus AV equals AB. That's going to be substitution, property of equality. I don't think I realized this was this tricky when I put it up, so I won't give you guys anything this involved, but just finish it up. So because of that, instead of the 6y plus 1 here, we could replace this with 3x plus 7 because that's what AV was. So then for step 5, we're going to say 3x plus 7 twice. Sorry, equals 8x minus 10. And that's going to be substitution, property of equality again. Combine like terms for step 6. 6x plus 14. CLT, simplify. I'll end up with 14 equals 2x minus 10. That's going to be the subtraction property of equality. 8, 24 equals 2x. Addition property of equality. 9, 12 equals x. Division property of equality. All right, so now we have to go back and figure out what y is. So, excuse me, we know that it was 6y plus 1. So, for step 10, I would say VB. VB equals 3 times 12 plus 7. That's substitution. $10. 11. VB equals 24 plus, 36 plus 7. It's going to be 45. Simplify. And then we can do the equation. So we know that VB is also equal to 7y, 6y plus 1. So it's going to be 45 equals this isn't 45, it's 43. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. That's 43. Alright, so this will end up being substitution. Again, substitution and transitive kind of overlap, so it could be either one there. And then for 13, we just solve this. So it'll be 42 equals 6y. Division property of equality. Again, that's way more elaborate than I would give you something. If I did give you something with the midpoint, they would probably both have x's, wouldn't be different variables. All right, next one. For this one, angles 1 and 8. So this is 8x plus 10, and this is 13x minus 55. So we start with the given. Again, if these lines are not parallel, these relationships don't exist between the angles, so that's important. So now we know all of those AEAs, AIAs, all that stuff works. So the angle pair here, these are alternate exteriors, so alternate exteriors are congruent. So we'll say angle 1 is congruent to angle 8. Alternate exterior angle theorem. Step 3, we'll substitute. Substitution, property of equality. Step 4, 10. Subtraction, property of equality. Subtracting 8x in that step. Step 5, 65 equals 5x. Addition, property of equality. excuse me, divide, we'll get x equals 13. All right, so the question asks you to prove that angle 3 is acute. So in order to prove angle 3 is acute, you kind of need to figure out what its measure is, or you can figure out what angle 1 is. So I'm going to go plug in. So the measure of angle 1 is equal to 8 times 13 plus 10. Substitution. Property of equality. Step 8. Measure of angle 1 equals 8 times 13 is 104 plus 10 is 114. So let's simplify. Excuse me. Next step is angle 1 and angle 3. You should know that they're a linear pair. Plus the measure of angle 3 equals 180. And that's because they're a linear pair. Then for 10, angle 1 is now 114. Substitution. Measure of angle 3 equals 66. Subtraction property of equality. And the last step, 12. Angle 3 is acute. Definition of an acute angle. An acute angle is an angle that's less than 90 degrees. So once we proved that it was 66, that meant it was acute. Last two proofs here. Sorry about that. So for this one, on number 12, first thing I would start with was the given. And for this one, again, before you can plug in numbers, you need to write it out with the statement. So it would be xz plus, don't need the line up top there, xz plus zy equals xy, and that's going to be segment addition postulate. Then we can substitute. So in for xz, we're going to put the 3 in plus 4, looks like a y, that's a 4, plus 3 in equals the 42, because the whole thing was given to be 42. And that's going to be substitution. Property of equality. From there we distribute, so it'll be 3n plus 12 plus 3n equals 42. Distributive property of equality. Next step is 6n plus 12 equals 42. Combine like terms, simplify. Next step is 6n equals 30. Subtraction property of equality. Step 7, n equals 5. Division property of equality. All right, and last and final problem, please God. Statement reasons. These lines are parallel. Angle 1 is 10x plus 6. Angle 5 is 6x plus 14. So these angles have no relationship, but there is a way to gradually go about connecting them. So we start with our given. And then for 2, we do know that angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. And that's because they're vertical angles. So vertical angle theorem. Step 3. So That means that the measure of angle 3, so I guess we won't say it yet. We'll say angle 3 plus angle 5. Can't say that yet. Angle 3 and angle 5 are supplementary. And that's going to be same side interior angle theorem. Step 5 will be the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 5 equals 180. Definition, supplementary angles. Oh, that's step 4. Step 5. Again, and now we can plug in. So instead of angle 3, we can replace it with angle 1. So it's going to be angle 1, measure of angle 1, plus the measure of angle 5 equals 180. Substitution. So we're taking the angle 1 and putting it in for where we had angle 3. Then for step 6, we can go ahead and substitute in the variables. So it's going to be 10x plus 6 plus 6x. Okay. 6x plus 14 equals 180. Substitution again. 7. Combine like terms. Simplify. 8. Subtraction property of equality. And last step, number 10. I'm sorry, number 9. X is 10, division property of equality. Alright, and if you need any help with the quiz, before the quiz, stop into the meeting room. I'll be there from 1 to 2 all week, every week. Have a great day, guys.